So, Peter, at the break, I had made maybe a slightly laborious, no pun intended, metaphor about carpenters, that I think people who don't do any woodwork don't realize that a lot of the time that carpenters spend is, when they're building cabinets or pieces of furniture, is building the tools necessary to build the final product. They'll build a jig that, it's basically like building a mold in some respects, or something to help them with other tools. And to a large extent, that's what you're writing about here in Jacobin is, how do you, what are the preliminary almost objectives that will give you the power to achieve the larger goals? Those goals may be single-payer healthcare. They may be universal pre-K or universal daycare. They may be breaking up the banks. They may be breaking up big companies. A whole host of progressive, democratic, socialist agenda. But there has to be an infrastructure that's created first. What's the plan for that?
So I think that you need to. So first of all, we need to start building durable political institutions, and there's been some significant progress on this stuff with all the groups organizing around the Green New Deal. We need to see things like what we saw at the very beginning of Congress with protesters in Nancy Pelosi's office. If we start seeing our agenda blocked, we need that to start happening every single day in every single office. And we need the infrastructure to allow that to happen. We need activists to have the resources. They need to have the training to really put a whole lot of pressure on politicians. We need to start working within labor unions and other sort of more traditional progressive allies who have sometimes gone off course. I don't know if you recently saw that a lot of trade unions came out against the Green New Deal. We need to start, first of all, talking to the people in them, but also as activists within unions. If you're a woodworker, if you're a carpenter, then you should be talking to people within your union and trying to push for them to support more progressive things. And then when the administration gets into power, they need to start thinking about staging their policy agenda and rolling out policies from the very get-go that build long-term power, not just going with the immediate sort of most flashy item, but what can we do right now that's going to help us in the future? What's going to sort of mobilize people in support of our agenda as it goes on? When you read any sort of history of the people who got into power and privatized all the things and sold off assets and ripped back the welfare state, they thought very, very carefully about what's the way that we can phase out our agenda, sort of a step-by-step plan to dismantle the welfare state and sort of rip the heart out of the public sector. But it was very deliberate, and we need to be exactly the same way. We need to think about sort of what institutions can we create in the first 100 days, in the first year of office, that are going to be a force multiplier for us over the entire rest of whatever president, be that Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or whoever, in order to allow us to exert further power and get the rest of our agenda through, because there's a huge amount of policies that we need to pass in order to bring this country up to decent society that we all need.
So we have about 3.5 minutes left, and you cite that there are models that we have seen historically and internationally. One is the Meidner plan. Just in just about 2 or 3 minutes left, just give us a broad overview of what that is. It involves key sectors, correct?
So basically, what the Meidner plan would have done. And what I'm proposing should be revived is a scheme by which companies, large companies, every year would have to give a certain percentage of their shares for no compensation to funds owned by workers. And the workers would get dividends from that fund, so they would immediately benefit from it. They'd see the benefits of social ownership, and they'd be able to vote on internal matters in the company they'd have the sort of oversight rights that shareholders get, and over time they'd move towards a significant share of the company and would be able to block the nasty things, layoffs, environmental destruction. So this was proposed in Sweden in the 70s. It was passed in sort of a watered-down form in the 80s. It ended up, by the early 1990s, controlling about 10% of the economy before it was sold off by a right-wing government because there wasn't a dividend out of it. So we want to give a dividend to people so that they know about it and so they want to protect it. So that's like what I'm saying. Now, you need to phase it so that people understand the benefits that they're getting from it immediately.
Is this something that is legislated, though? I mean, is this like, how does a president with maybe a recalcitrant legislator get that, have that happen in this country?
So I said it in the beginning of the piece that really this might be something that happens a bit of the way down the road, but once you introduce that, then it's really hard to get rid of. So I'm proposing this as something that you can do, like when you end up having a legislator that's going to cooperate with your agenda. Once you're not Franklin Roosevelt with a Congress hostile to him, but that you're someone with a New Deal Congress who can pass all of those policies. There's a lot of examples of administrations coming into power with hostile cabinet, with a hostile parliament that end up sort of coming back and being more successful the second time round. Maybe it's after the midterms, maybe it's in his second term, or maybe it's the person after him. I don't know immediately, but I do think that once you start, that you need to think about building institutions that create a democratic heartbeat in the economy, and this is one of them. We have, I say that in my day job, I work at the Next System Project. It's a democracy collaborative. We have lots of other models like this on our website, thenextsystem.org, that people can read through.
Great. Well, folks can check out your piece in Jacobin, and they can check it out at the website. Peter Gowan, fascinating, a much underlooked perspective on what success. What the challenges are involved in success in this 2020 election. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.